Welcome to Let's Talk. Hi everyone, Judy here. Thank you for tuning in. If you don't know, I upload one video to this series each and every week. It seems that Trump is highly likely to win the GOP's nomination, so I think that Chris Christie is a better choice for the Republicans because he might have the chance to win the presidency in 2024. Unfortunately, it seems that Trump will be their nominee. So, if Trump gets elected again, what's the future of the country and the world? My prediction is Trump will become a real dictator, for sure. My reasons? Well, I've talked about them in my previous videos. I'll put the links in the description box. Okay, now let's talk about the future if Trump wins. Firstly, he'll change the Constitution in order to make himself America's president for life. And his followers would cheer for it, since they are in his cause and they love him no matter what he does. Meanwhile, he'll give his supporters some benefits by selling all the country's long-term interests, by taking away more human rights from minority groups. Meanwhile, America won't slowly turn her back on her old allies while forging a new group with Russia, North Korea, etc. And then in about 5 or 10 years, because of isolationism and autocracy, and because of short-sighted policies, the economy will become weaker, and the States will no longer be the most powerful country in the world gradually. So which country will replace America? The United Kingdom. Yep, I think that Britain will get its place back if Trump is elected in 2024. Here's why. First, they take care of their younger generations. Except offering free meals at school for children, they also value education, and they don't ban books. Second, their society is more tolerant. Some studies show that British are more tolerant towards the people from different groups, backgrounds, or cultures. Third, they respect science and offer a more tolerant environment for scientists. They've already given us cloning Dolly the sheep, right? Yes, Japan and Germany are also good places for scientists. But I bet my money on Britain. I believe that the UK will become the new leader of their allies, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and so on. What do you think, my friends? What's your prediction? Hi everyone, Judy here. Thank you for tuning in. Today, let's talk about current dictators. If you watch my previous videos, you might remember that I said that I think Trump's MAGA is the biggest cult in the modern world, that I believe the first generations of dictatorships are cult leaders. I didn't say why those dictators are cult leaders back then, but now I want to talk about my reasons for making this conclusion. In fact, I'm not the only person who thinks those dictators are cult leaders. In 1956, the term cult of personality was coined in a speech called On the Cult of Personality and Its Consequences. And those dictators were called cult dictators. Over time, people believe that cult of personality has played a crucial role in authoritarian and totalitarian countries. So, what is a cult of personality? Well, a cult of personality refers to a group of people united by the extreme reverence of a charismatic leader. Usually, the most notorious leaders of personality cults are cult dictators. And those cult dictators have some common characteristics. Number one, they use religions as tools to gain utmost power. So they portray themselves as godlike figures. They presented themselves as the incarnation of an ongoing ideological transformation. Hitler adopted Christian terminology in his speeches, making up the impression of Christ-like figure, a man of destiny, making people believe that he was their helper, their savior, their deliverer. But in real life, he despised Christianity as a weak belief system. Number two, those cult dictators display and spread fear and hatred, making people hate each other, against each other. And then they use their terror groups to suppress their so-called enemies, to crush the people who don't support them. For example, in the old Soviet Union, 6 to 9 million people lost their lives in Stalin's purges. Stalin presented himself as a devoted servant of Marxism and Leninism, though he later created his own Stalinism based on them. Number 3. Massive propaganda and rallies. In order to make everyone glorify the leader to a crazy degree, cult dictators make sure that their photos are on the covers of almost all the magazines and hung on the public and private walls, etc. For example, Hitler used films, magazines, newspapers, books, and other items to glorify him as a soul savior, a strong and self-sacrificing figure, a gifted Superman who brought stability and created jobs, a hero who redeemed the country. Of course, he didn't sell t-shirts, coffee cups, or socks. I bet he would laugh at the idea of selling such kinds of things. After all, he considered himself an artist, not a fake billionaire. Okay, number 4. Isolationism. The example of this theory is Italy's Mussolini. In order to make people believe that he, only he, could guarantee the perfect justice, that they should subordinate or eliminate inferior races, Mussolini created a dictum called all within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing without the state. End quote. There are more common characteristics among these cult dictators, but I'm running out of time, so let's wrap it up today with this. These cult dictators don't believe in their cause. They just use the courts as tools to achieve their goals.
Hi everyone, Judy here. Thank you for tuning in. Today, let's talk about prisoner's dilemma, Trump's fraud case.
I believe that we all know Trump's fraud trial in New York, and his adult children will take the center stage at this very trial against Trump family and their company in the first and second week of November, right? The dates of their testimony remind me of the famous game theory, prisoner's dilemma. So what is prisoner's dilemma? Well, it's a well-known game of strategy in social science, a paradox in decision analysis where two rational individuals acting in their own self-interest do not always produce the optimal solution. This game theory was developed in 1950 by mathematicians Mario Fladan, Melvin Drescher, and then it was conceptualized by Canadian mathematician Alvin Tucker during the Cold War. The typical prisoner's dilemma is a situation where two parties always have an incentive to choose in a way that may lead both parties choose to protect themselves at the expense of other participants. In Trump's fraud case, however, there are more than two individuals, apart from other defendants who are not in Trump's family. Trump and his two adult sons are also the defendants in this civil case. His daughter, who's not a defendant, but also she'll take the witness stand. By the way, I guess I need to make it clear that I recorded this video on October 31st, but I'll post it on YouTube a few weeks later. So right now, I don't know what they'll say when they testify. And I'm not predicting the outcome either. Here, I'm just talking about the situations they are in. Donald Trump Jr. will be the first one to testify, and then Eric Trump. I don't think these two would dare throw their father under the bus, since they are solely relying on him for everything. First, they work for their father. Second, they don't know their own followers. Their followers are mostly Trumpers who worship their father. So I guess they would protect their father by all means, at least at this time. But they might sell out each other in order to protect their own interests. Okay, let's see. Yes, Trump's time. According to the Attorney General's list, Trump will take the stand after Eric, before Ivanka. Trump might protect himself by throwing one or two of his sons off the cliff, if he needs to. But he won't sell his daughter wrong. Here's why. I believe that he loves Ivanka more than his other children. Secondly, he needs Ivanka's fans and followers to support him. Ivanka, on the other hand, she doesn't need him anymore. Thirdly, if he kicks Ivanka under the bus, then when Ivanka takes the stand after him, she'll kick his ass even harder. So now we're really getting into the game, prisoner's dilemma. Now we have two individuals, Ivanka and her father. And we now know that Trump won't dare do any harm to Ivanka. Ivanka, however, she must share her sincere testimony in order to protect herself from future potential lawsuits. And I believe that's the very reason Trump doesn't want to testify. What do you think, my friends? Hi everyone, this is Judy Fay London, a published writer who writes fiction and non-fiction, a fan of Jack London, a dog lover, and a yoga lover, and I love you all. How are you doing, my dear friends? I hope you're all doing well. And today, I want to talk about the biggest quote in the modern world. Yeah, I'm talking about Trump's quote, MAGA. You may wonder why I call it a quote. Well, first, we know that Trump is a master at mind control, which is a core leader's basic requirement. You see, when Trump told his followers not to trust the media, they obey. They only trust him. So no matter what bad thing he does, they believe it's other people's fault. He controls their thoughts. They block their own thoughts and ideas. They don't question him because they are in his court, blindly following and trusting them. In fact, I think that the first generations of dictatorships are core leaders, like Hitler, Stalin, etc., and their followers. So many of them permanently lost their ability to think independently. They just couldn't get out of the shadows of their evil leaders. Second, core leaders always repeat their lies until members can't distinguish between what's real and what's not. Trump has been lying all the time, and his followers believe these lies no matter how ridiculous they are. Why? They don't question his lies, they don't think with their brains, and they don't analyze the things he says. Third, core leaders always tell their members that there are some people outside the group want to harm, like the government or other groups. And they tell their followers that only their own group, their own leader, can protect them. Sounds familiar? They are not after me, they are after you, right? What a core leader. Unfortunately, some members don't realize that it's a cult, and they might never be able to understand it. You might say, oh, no, a cult is religious, MAGA is not like that. Well, according to a TED video about cults, two experts said that the content or ideology at the core of a cult can be religious or political. Some are therapy-based, and some focus on self-improvement. Trump's MAGA has so many similarities with the cults in human history. Another example, cults often set up a we-they philosophy. They always say, we have the truth, you don't. Familiar? And if a core leader runs for a political position, when he loses, he says it's rigged. Like the famous core leader, so-called Ashara in Japan, ordered his followers to attack Tokyo after he lost his campaign in 1995. He told his followers it was rigged and he was angry, so he sent them to set off several packages of deadly sarin gas in the Tokyo subway system. More familiar? Now, do you think Trump MAGA is a cult? Well, my friends, as you know, I'm a published writer who writes fiction and non-fiction, novels, and short stories. You're very welcome to visit my website, judyfaylondon.com, or Amazon to read my poems and my short stories. The last one, Mr. Right, Candy the Dog, and so on, and my latest non-fiction book, Living with the Walking Dead, a roadmap for achieving your own success. I hope to see you there, and I thank you so much for your kind support, and thank you very much for subscribing to my YouTube channels, Judy Fay London and Judy Plus. Judy Fay London is a comprehensive channel, while Judy Plus is a channel that talks about interesting scientific discoveries. And my friends, if you are Trumpers, I hope that you can be able to see the truth, the real truth about Trump, that you can get out of the shadow of his corpse. Thank you for listening, subscribing, liking, sharing, and commenting. This has been Judy Fay London. I wish you nothing but success and happiness. Let's talk next time. Bye.